Hi, I'm Kurt Doty with RealmIQ. This is our podcast, RealmIQ Sessions, where we talk about everything AI with international AI leaders. Please give us a follow or subscribe. Today's guest is Nick Sgobba, who is a former IBM Senior Inventor with AI and patent expertise. With over a decade in Big Blue across Europe and the Middle East, his journey took him to the dynamic worlds of startups and venture studios. Along the way, he's also been a visiting lecturer in master's programs in AI and believes in technology as a tool to build a better tomorrow. I love that. He's now the co-founder and chief product officer of Evalify, a Nobody Studios portfolio company. I will also disclose that I am a small investor in Nobody Studios. So that said, welcome to the show, Nick. Let's hear about your history and your new product, and it's very exciting to have you on the show.
It's exciting for me. I'm humbled and grateful. Thank you for having me. So very, very happy to be here. From where do we start? Well, the fact you're an investor in Nobody Studios probably makes you also an investor into Evalify, which is one of the nicest concepts that we have at Nobody Studios. Once you invest in one of the companies or in the studio, you actually own shares across. It's like you own shares across every single company.
I will try to be objective as possible here. Being a podcaster
absolutely.
or journalist or whatever. So
absolutely. So yeah, thanks for the wonderful intro. I think you said it all. It's that's me. I spent over a decade at IBM across several countries, Czech Republic, Slovakia, United Arab Emirates, and I've been doing many works around technology first, and toward the end of, let's say, my IBM career, towards software and AI and natural language processing and all things around this. I think I brought to Czech Republic one of the first AI-focused, IBM Watson-focused products and offerings to, let's say, the wider audience from the Central and Eastern Europe. Okay. And with that team, we were putting together a lot of virtual assistants together at that time. This was 2017, 2018, 2019. So pretty, let's say, early stages. And I would say not early stages in the sense of the technology, but early stages in adoption at mass scale of what we wanted to do, what we envisioned at that time, And I ended up making a lot of technology fixes that became like technology novelties and inventions for IBM, because we were actually solving real life problems for customers for the first time, putting together multiple virtual assistants. And that brought me to the words of inventions and to the words of patents. And I'm now in the 7th year in a row that I'm like a prolific inventor. So producing patents every year and keep coming up with novel fixes and nice little touches to tech that then we all know and use. So that's me.
Let's follow that, because you were at IBM when and leading kind of with Watson and then ChatGPT or OpenAI started in 2018.
Yes.
And how did they make such a leap? They weren't an IBM. They were like, private companies, a nonprofit, so to speak. So how were they able to just take off the way they did?
Well, I would say that there are many things, that needs to be unpacked there, because it can be easy to say like, yeah, you're a startup, you're surpassing big corporations and so on. So first of all, the way a corporation moves is completely different than a startup moves, and a startup thinks and spend time and money and resources and almost no money, almost no resources. But there is one key thing you enter into and you go full into that. And from that, then you expand, you enter the market, you find your niche and so on. Everything we know about companies, startups, and how the ecosystem works. So with this being said, the challenges that corporations do face are completely different than challenges users face or smaller companies face. And so you need to have completely different perspective. You almost can't mix the two words because, if you think about like a corporation like IBM, I'm not saying that it's slow, but it's like you would have to imagine like you're making a comparison between a country, how a country thinks about delivering, let's say, deploying a new regulation, all the time it takes, all the discussions, everything that is around that, until it's, let's say, on production. All this time, it's almost like a country that is making a new law on something, a new regulation on something. It's like USPTO coming up last week, 2 weeks ago, with like new deliberation around AI assisted inventions. We've been already discussing for a couple of years around this topic, and they came out with a call for action to, let's say, inventors and stakeholders, attorneys, everybody who was around this kind of word. And they were asking like for an opinion on whether AI should be admitted as an inventor, as a co-inventor into something. What's the role of AI into these things, and it took them like 4 years almost to put it together and come up with 9 pages that do summarize something, but they're not saying everything at all, in my opinion.
In the meantime, progress has happened, and there's been all these inventions,
yes.
right? Well, it's interesting that you talk about big tech versus what I call alt tech, not necessarily small, but AI, currently is squarely within the power structure of big tech. Ironic that entrepreneurs like yourself are finding ways to invent and push the envelope. So let's talk about Evalify and what were your insights and problems to solve and how you solve them, because I think it's fascinating what you've done.
So, okay, Evalify is an AI-powered platform that analyzes almost 200 million patent documents in less than 5 minutes to basically understand a pitch deck from an investor and tell them about what are the red flags and the issues that they might face if they continue pursuing that idea the way it is. So it's an assessment. It's about decision making through the lenses of intellectual property. And there is a lot to unpack here, but I'll try. I'll do my best. So first of all, you have to think about like this. You have to know this number. It takes 2 minutes, 40 something seconds, anyway, less than 3 minutes on average for an investor. And this is data from Dropbox DocSend, which they happen to have a lot of pitch decks and a lot of statistics about how users do use this data and so on. So they say that for the first time investors access a pitch deck that is being shared by founders, colleagues, other VCs, people in their network, it takes them less than 3 minutes to decide if they want to have a follow-up meeting or not.
Yep. Okay. 3 minutes.
Okay. So my question is, as a founder, is like, what can you possibly de-risk in 3 minutes?
De-risk. Okay. That's a key word. Please
that's the key word here.
De-risk. D-risk. I love that word.
Thank you so much. Yes. So what can you possibly de-risk in 3 minutes? And that's my provocation, okay? And you'll find out I'm very provocative. I'll try always to pose a outrageous question and try to get a, something in return, a meaningful discussion in return. So what can you possibly de-risk in 3 minutes? That's our question at Evalify. And what we are saying is, I'm coming from the long tail of people who can have ideas and can never get to have the chance to present this kind of ideas to VCs. This is because I'm coming from a small little town in south of Italy. I do not have typically access to, let's say, Silicon Valley or the Israeli hub or Shanghai, Singapore. I don't have access to these big centers of excellence where money gets deployed to enter, into business and let's say help a company to grow. I'm not the typically person an investor would invest into. And, with Evalify, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the best ideas can emerge. no matter where they're coming from, no matter who you are, no matter what is your background, no matter what is your network, no matter anything else but the solution you're proposing. What we're doing is like leveraging the patent dataset, which is an unbelievable hidden dataset in the world, full of gems that nobody really uses on a daily basis, to make decisions on whether a technology should be, let's say, pursued as is or not, based on what we find in this dataset.
Mm-hmm.
At the essence, a patent is simply a legal document. But if you look deeper, it's the solution to a technical problem. It has to be described in a way that you almost have like a series of steps to replicate that technology, so that a person with skills in the art can make another piece of that. It's like a chef reading a recipe to replicate a meal. We are using this entire dataset. It's all unstructured, but we are using, let's say, the patterns we find into this data to make sure we identify the things that are existing already, and then we compare those with what's coming from a pitch deck. And we pick a pitch deck because it's a provocatory thing. We wanted to take the tiniest amount of details of information you can provide on day one, when the idea is just something on a piece of paper on the back of a napkin. A pitch deck. Everybody has a pitch deck in the startup world. It's almost like your business card with your startup.
Like being a waiter in LA and Hollywood,
yes,
right?
So don't say you don't have one. So you have a pitch deck. You upload it through this platform. We understand what's written there. We identified all the technical feature within this pitch deck. We define with our classifiers what's patentable, what's not. With that, we make a search into the worldwide patent dataset, and we're able to tell if that thing is novel, not novel. What is the potential to grow? What are the risks associated with this idea? What are the players that already own intellectual property in the space? And this happens in less than 3 minutes. We are unaware of the founders. We're unaware of any possible bias that we want to remove from this, process. And we just make sure we can take the best out of the solution you're describing and make sure that the best ideas can emerge. Because imagine this run on 100 pitch decks from an investor. You would easily be able to rank this by freedom to operate score. Because we are telling you what are the best ideas.
Let me elaborate on that, because I've actually worked with a lot of startups, built these pitch decks, and done these communication strategies, written them, and kind of, have sparred with the founder or the CTO around, well, what is the best feature to market, right? And then what are some of the buried gems that you're not bubbling up that might be the true differentiator out there in a go-to market plan? So does your software, I'll call it software, does it analyze and prioritize, like, we found 10 ideas that, are either trademarkable or not, or copyrightable or patentable or not. But these 3 at the bottom of the list, which had less prominence in the deck, are your best lead features. Does it do any discerning around that type of granularity, or is that
absolutely
on the product map?
Absolutely, yes. So you should imagine, like, the way our system thinks about your pitch deck is this. It's literally analyzing everything that is written within that, and we're creating sort of graph of thoughts. Okay, we are literally creating these clusters of words, cluster of concepts, and with that we are identifying like the different ideas, what is connecting those, what are the most important based on our own classifications, which is of course in line with the current market conditions and the current trends in investing. And this, by the way, it's something we aim at customizing. So it's literally creating these clusters of ideas, reasoning about the potential of these ideas as single entities or as merged together. And it's deciding which one of these features, which one of these ideas, concepts, technical concepts, let's call it this way, should be searched alone or searched together. in pair with something else.
Okay.
And with that, we make the reasoning that enables us to create all the necessary semantic reasoning that will lead to define what are the most similar patents, most similar patent documents pertaining to that, and telling us if that is novel or not, and if this, if pursued, would be on a trajectory to infringe. Remember, the entire idea is de-risking. IP is a tool here. It's not the thing. The thing is de-risking.
Yeah. Okay.
Through IP.
That's fascinating. So, you know, the recent head of NVIDIA said that coding as a profession might be going away in the next few years because of all this progress of automation and OpenAI.
Yes.
And so will that change or accelerate the amount of patents that are filed? Because then you're going to have these one-person GPT creators
Right.
who could be running $1 billion business with no technical staff, no CTO, no understanding of the technology, but they had this idea. How is that going to impact not only the IP process, but also your process, your flow? Because it's a crazy
Right.
world right now, so everything's changing.
No, right. That's a super fascinating question. Thank you. So I would say a couple of things first. So the first is like, I believe that the power of AI lies in the human-machine collaboration, especially at this stage. Okay, so this is the most important thing, and that's the core of the entire conversation, and that's the core of the thought behind what NVIDIA CEO said to me. Because what he really meant from my perspective is like, you shouldn't focus about like everything that is around coding, like really understanding the tiny little details behind coding. You need to grasp what coding means. You need to grasp what instructing, thinking logically, and how putting together a sort of, let's say, algorithm, sort of conditions, sort of explaining a system by storytelling means. And this will be coding in 2 years from now, in 3 years from now. You will tell a story and the application will run itself.
Right.
Okay. So the point is, you shouldn't be learning about if you're starting now from scratch. Probably what he's saying, like, it's not worth the investment to think about like start coding from scratch, learning how to code from scratch.
Right.
But what is worth is understanding how these systems we are currently using are thinking, reasoning, working, and make sure you understand how to instruct those things to do the things for you, the tiny little details for you.
Right.
So this is one component, and it lies in the human AI collaboration. And in terms of what the USPTO, for instance, United States Patent and Trademark Office just said, literally, this is something from February, mid-February, something like that, 13th of February, if I'm not mistaken. What they said, it's like, we are recognizing an increasingly amount of people were saying that they have invented something through a collaboration with an AI.
Yeah.
And what the USPTO said, it's like, no way an AI can be an inventor. You have to be a natural person. However, there are instances in which we see that a human and an AI can collaborate together. And as long as the human is providing what they call it a meaningful contribution to the inventive steps, to the invention, that is something that is like possible to patent, to protect, because you're a natural person, you provided a meaningful contribution. AI cannot be listed, okay, as an inventor, yet they're opening to this collaboration. And I'm very happy about that, because that's the entire point here. We need to embrace this kind of new way of working, new way of getting things done, new way of moving further. All lies in the collaboration. In the moment you see that as a collaborator, as a co-pilot, there is co-something term that we are, keep repeating
Yeah.
It's a pattern nowadays,
Yeah.
but that's where the power lies.
Yeah. Copilot was the best branding name out there to describe what all
I,
this is about.
I agree.
So, you're talking about this new world of, innovation and the possibilities for people who don't have necessarily the technical background to collaborate with an AI to invent something. So, do you see this acceleration of access to the technology? And I will also say the simultaneity of similar concepts is creating this race and sea of confusion as to who was first to have this idea and a proliferation of applications. It seems like it's a little crazy time we're about to head into.
Absolutely. So from the Evalify perspective, I can tell you this. If we do things right, soon enough, we will be able to say, like, who's working on what, who's investing on what, and where the best ideas are coming from. We may be able to identify completely different patterns that we are used to, because we followed, currently all reports follow the dynamic of money. They follow the money, they see the investment, where the investment was made, and that makes the trend.
Okay.
If we do things right, we would be able probably to do like a completely different, way of identifying trends, way of having the best ideas to emerge from completely different places, in completely different niches, in completely different clusters than we are used to. So if
Well,
we do
yeah,
things
I mean,
right,
what you're talking about is the data that you're getting,
data that we're
what you're
putting,
doing with it versus just the analysis and a
correct.
results informing the founder, let's say. But you're
Correct.
saying a bigger picture is the data that you're collecting, aggregate data, right? Aggregate.
Correct. Aggregate data,
Yeah.
we will have no clue about
Yeah, right.
exact things, but we will see
And
different
then
things.
that is a data as a service. Data.
Yes.
Is that even a term? I don't know. Maybe I just invented a new
Yes. Yeah,
term.
no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. It's there. It's there.
Okay.
That
Okay.
as a service is there.
Wasn't that original then? But I think that's fascinating too, because that's really, the behind the scenes benefit by providing this service that a lot of people don't think about
Yep.
the benefits of going through creating this technology as a service to founders, but how it can actually help and guide both investors and founders with relevant information and data and trends, like you say, to inform where this is all going and where there's opportunity versus recycling everybody else's ideas and kind of helping weed out, the good ones from the
No, that's correct.
often commoditized ideas, which, there's
Yes.
simultaneity that inevitably happens.
Yes. To answer to your previous question, if we do things right with AI, with Evalify, with many things that we're currently doing, we will be in a direction, we will start getting in the direction where even non-technical founders can come up with something, with MVPs, with what we call now minimum viable products or prototypes, or things that can showcase a concept from a technical perspective of a digital product, for instance. If we do things right with AI, we will be able to get rid of, let's say, languages in the middle, in the sense that the AI will make sure we can communicate in our own language, or at the best of our, let's say, to the best of our knowledge, based on the language and the words we do have in our vocabulary. That will be all sorted out and put together. This translation work will be done by AI, and this very same translation will happen from a story to an application, and then from an application to an impact, to a service, to different actions. All these things will align. The creation of intellectual property will change, inevitably will change. We just need to make sure we are ready to assess that. We need to make sure we are ready to capture it in different formats than it is right now. And probably there will be an explosion of novel intellectual property, not only patents, but creation of completely of contents everywhere, completely new kind of contents. I'm sure that will be not only new media, but new completely different, let's say, file formats, let's put it this way, that will arise in the coming years.
Yeah,
Multimodal,
fascinating. Well,
it's like
and
something that will come.
it's a great point you make around the AI translating into a better communication of these
Yes.
concepts. That's been my challenge as a creative director or writer, helping these startups developing communication strategies. And, many times the founders the founder is not the CTO, and the founder can't really put into words or describe what is the underlying technology. And sometimes the CTO is so bogged down with, their wonder of
Jargon.
the technology that it's not really reaching consumer level message, which in a pitch deck, in one sentence, you also need to communicate as if the DC, it's on the other side of the table or on the other side of the Zoom screen can understand what the hell you're talking about.
Yes.
I spent 2 years in the Web3 space and no one knew what we were talking about. And it was very confusing. And, many, companies didn't get traction because they just didn't understand the metaverse. They didn't understand Web3, decentralization, all these large concepts that were never clearly articulated. And so I think what you're doing is fantastic. So
Yeah, if I may here, probably the lesson learned. I followed the Web3 space for around a year as well, and my biggest learning from that is like when you're creating an entirely new space, you're essentially creating a novel community of people. And to bring people into communities, you need to make sure you build the knowledge about the product.
yeah,
You build the knowledge about something else. There are many concepts from, I think, the 60s that are telling a lot about like how to understand when something novel is coming from technical publications, which is like you simply start having new documents where you find increasing occurrence of novel patterns of words.
mm-hmm.
With the Web3, I think we did not make the good job in explaining a lot of the terms that are behind the Web3.
Right.
And this failed people to let's say, to understand exactly what was going on. And it wasn't somehow, it happened that like they did not felt part of the community. It was not inclusive as a language, as a jargon, as
Right.
a technical set of stuff. And that is like how not to do something.
Right. Right. How do you
That's
build a
what I
community?
learned.
Yeah, and with Web3, there were some fantastic democratizing concepts that would be good for humanity. But again, it was a
They're
misfire.
not ready.
Misfire in terms of a communication strategy, definition of terms, and then the confusion with Mark Zuckerberg's version of the metaverse and what that meant. And people hated it. And somehow it was got entangled into VR and
Yes.
will people wear headsets when it's like this isn't necessarily about headsets. So just
No.
mass confusion, little adoption, and headsets I think still have, a ways to go if they're ever going to be adopted. We'll see about that. That's for another
That's for
podcast
another time.
episode, right? But tell us how people can access Evalify, and are you in the GPT store? Is it just a website at this point? How are you
No,
marketing?
no, it's a proper platform that runs on AWS. It's mostly cooked in our kitchen, It's all a result of several years actually of consultancy. So this tool is actually the productization. We tried to squeeze into a product all our knowledge coming from consulting companies on how to best leverage their intellectual property, port, patent portfolio management, understanding what patents are about, what are they about, and how they could be reused and repurposed for different uses than they were originally designed and intended for.
Okay.
So there's been a lot that brought us to Evalify, and all our journey, all our let's say, consulting efforts, all our technical expertise fell into this product. So reaching Evalify.ai, you will be able to get everything you need already to start using the platform today and run your first pitch deck analysis. What you should expect is that you get a freedom to operate analysis. In other terms, it's telling you if you should continue.
That's another term. That's another new term. Freedom to operate
analysis.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what you get with with Evalify as of today. Input is a pitch deck. You upload it. You wait less than 5 minutes. You get an analysis on that. Freedom to operate.
Okay.
It's telling you if you should pursue the idea the way it is or not.
That's great.
And it's giving you like sources and exact documents explaining you patent references telling you
why or why not your ideas are good or valid or patentable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get it. Now, there's a lot of controversy around LLMs and databases, and what is the source for your information you're presenting, and how are you built?
Yes. So we of course use LLMs as well, but not probably the way everybody expects. These are simply used in summarization. That's it. We are building a report as a, let's say, output deliverable, and all we are doing is using those to summarize the different sections of the report, to structure it in a way that provides, let's say, insights in bullet points, whether instead of, let's say, using a graph that might be confusing, we would have to explain it. So we are simply using that to summarize insights. That's all it does. The data coming from patents is actually, this is over 170 jurisdictions, almost 200 million documents. This is a mix of third-party and company-owned assets that we are consulting. So this is professional data, fully curated, maintained. There's a lot of work actually we do in there. And, and the rest is models that we do have internally that are literally shaped on our own way of making analysis, as I explained before. All our experience in the past years ended up into these models that are now thinking like us. We are sort of automating ourselves, the past version of ourselves that was consulting, so that this tool can do it far faster than us, without our biases, in less than 5 minutes, at a fraction of the cost of what an attorney would do, and as a self-service. You don't have to wait for an appointment.
But you're not actually applying through your service, or a founder is not applying, they're just getting information. Right. They still have to apply to the patent office through traditional.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right? Remember, the keyword is de-risking, understanding what are the risks you may find through intellectual property about your idea.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's something that people are usually blind on.
Yes. Well, they don't know. They're immersed in their idea. They're navel gazing. I think I have the best idea. And it may not be, or it could be, or your third idea down on your product list is actually the idea versus what you think is your best idea, right?
Right. It's simply putting together the power of it's bringing on the table a consideration about what's the power of not knowing. If you don't know something, you probably never make proactive efforts to avoid something. And you just hit the wall, and you didn't know the wall was there.
You only know what you know.
Correct.
And the fact is, you don't know everything. So how can you know everything?
It's a reminder.
Cool. Well, listen, thanks, Nick. It was a fascinating conversation, fascinating technology and product. Thank you so much for explaining it to us in the simplest terms. And thanks to all of you for catching us on RealmIQ Sessions. This will be up on your favorite podcast platform, so please follow and smash that subscribe button. Nick, we'd love to have you back as your go-to-market strategy increases and adoption increases. And thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, everyone. You can now watch RealmIQ Sessions on your favorite podcast channels, including Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Podcasts. Follow and subscribe, people. Hey, Hey, are you the next AI unicorn? If so, you have to visit RealmIQ.com to learn about the AI Accelerator program we call SmartTrack. This is an 8-week program where we help founders by offering comprehensive support and strategy, product development, branding, team building, and securing investor access. Our services span the entire spectrum, catering to both nascent startups and growth stage companies, with a special emphasis on those in later stages demonstrating proven revenue. Learn more at realmiq.com/startups.
RealmIQ. Book your corporate AI workshop today.
kurtdoty.co. Branding, marketing and product development.